Sunday. It is January the 8th. It is 5:57 p.m. And today I would like to first share an experience that I had earlier this morning. And as I go through this, I really want you to think about the theme that I think is important for today, for this Sunday, which is to keep an open mind at all times. This is so extremely important. And I bring this up because in the subreddit, and I've talked about this before, and there's a reason why I focus on it so much. In the subreddit, I see that people already have in their minds defined all of these things, all of these experiences, and said, this is the way this is, and this is the way it's supposed to work. And if you're not feeling this, then you're having a lucid dream, or you're not shifting, or this is a mini shift, or whatever. I know that it, I guess, helps us to label things. It makes us more comfortable. But I also think that in order for us to get past this 3D reality, we have to stop allowing it to define the experiences that are beyond it. And I think that that's what a lot of people do. They are projecting their own 3D mindset to a place that is far beyond the 3D. So that is today's theme, is keeping an open mind, as I tell you about this experience that I had at 6:15 a.m. in the morning this morning. So first of all, for those of you who are interested, I did not have on storm sounds. I had on talk radio in the background, and I had it turned down really low. You might as well have said that I was kind of laying in silence. And one of my tips that I think I've given before, but I want to talk about it again really briefly, is that I know that everyone, gives these recommendations, or many people give these recommendations of binaural beats or all these other things. Again, I use storm sounds a lot, but some of my most interesting experiences have been when I have had an experience with complete silence in the backdrop, or when I have had my patio door open when it's been raining outside. So natural sounds or natural wind that's going on outside of my apartment. I think things like that can be valuable and can help you to get into an experience. It certainly has helped me. So I'm lying there, and I'm basically in silence. And at some point, I feel myself go into that middle space, and I feel myself beginning to go off of the bed. Now, for those of you who have not listened to some of my earlier Beyond Body experiences, I would suggest that you perhaps go back if you're not necessarily familiar with this. But when I transition to another reality, I go through this sense of feeling sometimes of turning and of motion, things like that. In this particular experience, I did feel myself going off my bed, though there was this weird feeling, guys, like I started going off, and then it was almost as if my bed turned, like did one turn, and then I started going the other way. It was really weird. It was a weird experience. I know there was something slightly different about it. That may not be completely accurate, but there was something slightly different about this experience. Now, when I went to the ground, as always, I began to feel that feeling of motion. And by the way, when I am in transport, it's not always like this. I have developed other ways to transition into different realities, but this is the way. I guess I would even I would even call it kind of old school for me, that feeling of motion. So as I was going into this motion, this was interesting. And I've talked about this spirit being by the name of Mito before. This was a spirit being that I connected with a while back. I believe she is a young Japanese girl. I'm not sure when she passed away, but one of the things I remembered about her was the fact that she had joked with me when I asked her how she had died. She said that Godzilla had thrown her off a mountain, and I just started laughing and laughing and laughing. And, you know, she was a person who impacted me, and I think about her a lot. I think a while back she may have gone beyond this world in the sense of even beyond the point where I could reach her, beyond to that place where people, when they die, they go to. And I believe that there's a point that even when we can astral project and do all these things, we may not be able to connect with them. And I had figured that she had gone beyond that point. So I missed her. I really do miss her. I missed her a lot. And so she popped into my mind as I was in motion, which was interesting. And I started thinking about her. And there was this point, I think, while I was in motion, and I was thinking, because I was going in one direction, right? And I was thinking to myself, should I see if I could actually see Mito? Maybe it's possible to do that. Then when I put that in my head, when I started thinking about it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to focus on Mito, suddenly it's almost like I veered maybe to the left, and I started accelerating even more. At some point, I began to slow down, and the darkness lifted. And the first thing I noticed, oh my gosh, this was such an unusual place. The first thing I noticed was the architecture. The architecture reminded me of something out of the medieval times. It, like castles and these big, huge walls and things like that. That's what it reminded me of at first. Even the way the buildings were constructed, the materials. Think medieval times. Think castles. Think things like that. I also, along with that, saw what I believe to be modern corporations. I believe I may have seen a sign that said Heinz, like as in Heinz ketchup. But it was Heinz, and there were other businesses. But I was able to recognize Heinz because I'm familiar with, I guess, the branding, the way it looks. But there were other businesses too. And the difficulty I had was that the letters were jumbled up, so I couldn't read it. It was like this whole dyslexic thing that I deal with and that I've dealt with before when I'm out there, where the letters are all turned around and I am unable to read them. But just initially, this contrast of the architecture, the medieval type of architecture, and the modern stuff, the modern corporations, that was unusual in of itself. But the other thing that I noticed was that the people were dressed either like I had two thoughts. I had ancient Chinese and I had ancient Japanese, but I would lean more toward ancient Chinese. And for those of you who are from either of these places, you know that these countries are completely different. They're completely different countries. Um, but I would lean more toward ancient Chinese and not Japanese. I saw this man, and he had a Fu Manchu, or what I would consider to be a Fu Manchu mustache, with this long beard. If you look at any of the old paintings of men and the way they were dressed back in ancient China, that's what this person looked like. And the other thing was that he didn't necessarily look Chinese to me, or Japanese, or Asian in any way. He actually looked like a mixture of European, and maybe there was some Chinese in there. But my first initial thought was, this person looks like, I would think maybe at least half European. I wasn't sure. And that was what I was seeing, I think, throughout with the people that were walking around. Um, now, uh, I was from the very beginning kind of calling out and saying, Mito, Mito, whatever, and kind of looking for her. But the other thing I was obviously doing is I was observing this fascinating reality that I had arrived in, and the unusual mixture, something I would never have expected. Um, and as I passed, there was a man that I passed, the man I described to you, that had the Fu Manchu mustache and the long beard, and this man was heavy set. And I remember I touched the man on the arm because I just wanted to feel. Sometimes I'll do these things where I verify, where I touch certain objects. Um, it's unusual for me to actually touch a person or something like that. But when I did, I saw this man, I saw the opportunity, so I touched his arm. And I remember, first of all, it felt solid, felt warm, felt like any other arm you might touch. The other thing that was very interesting was the man stopped and he was looking around like, who is it that did that? So he didn't see me, and for some reason, I don't believe I was visible to this person, which is a whole nother thing. I can't tell you why. I feel like I should have been visible to him, but for some reason I wasn't. I was not visible. And I continued my search for Mito right after that. And at some point, I saw a group of kids, and I saw the kids with an adult, think maybe like a field trip or something. And right around the time I saw this, I returned back to this reality, this 3D reality. I opened my eyes and I decided I needed to write this down because it was such an unusual experience. But again, this Sunday, I wanted to stress to you the idea of keeping an open mind at all times and thinking outside of the box. It's so very important, especially for those of you who may be struggling to have an experience. Um, I know because it's almost like I will see people on the subreddit and they will be like, I've tried this for years. I've tried these same things for years over and over and over again. And my thing is, I don't know, you can try this if you're trying something over and over again and it's not working and you continue to try it, that to me doesn't really make sense. My thought is you have to open your mind and be open to other things. Be open to listening to your dreams, especially, and this is something that I've emphasized before and will continue to emphasize. Be open to your dream communicating to you or finding answers in ways that you might not expect them to be. Because I know that we're always expecting things to be a certain way. But what I'm trying to do, especially with these Sunday videos, is I'm trying to hopefully assist you in opening your mind up enough to see things coming from directions that you would never have thought of. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for coming on this Sunday journey with me. And until next time, take care.